Hey everybody, I'm Clifford Stumby, the Pop Song Professor, and welcome to my channel where we make song lyrics explained. Today we're talking about Mulberry Street by 21 Pilots from Scaled and Icy, and typically when I turn on the camera and start recording, I basically know what I'm going to say. With this one, I feel like I just more need to talk it out with you guys because Mulberry Street is confusing and there are a lot of different theories that work here. I asked for you guys over my community tab, what you thought, to share some of yours, so I'm going to refer to some of your comments. And the first one is Moonlight Riviera, who said, I love Mulberry Street. Definitely agree that some of the lyrics are interesting. It a weird one. And they're probably referring to lines like, keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this, or keep your sunny days, leave us in the rain, keep your pills, save your breath, or ain't no sunny skies till you finally realize that everybody relies on synthetic highs, they find someone to prescribe, keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this, which is almost, not only are some of the regular listeners, but a lot of critics too hear that and they think, is he talking about saying no to meds for depression or something like that? Because that seems to be the automatic go-to for this. But there's a lot of other theories that go into this, but questions still remain. So I'm gonna talk through some of the classic theories here, and we'll just talk through it. So let's start with the basics, what is actually being said. In the intro and several other places, keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this. Okay, keep your just sort of mindless happiness, because what I'm experiencing, there's nothing wrong with it. It's normal, okay? So if you're having this great day and I'm not, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just what it is. And he goes on to explain, in verse 1, keep your sunny days, leave us in the rain, tie strings to our hands and feet to rain on your parade, which makes it sound like we are parade floats, like the giant blow-up creatures that go over the parade, and that way we'd be in a position to rain on their parade, right? Leave us in the rain, and so maybe we're ruining life for these people. You can have the weekends, we will live between them. The weekends are the fun time, we'll stay in the not fun time. Keep your pills, save your breath, so don't tell us what we need, and don't ever forget. And then into the chorus, get out of our way, we're moving sideways, welcome to Mulberry Street. So instead of moving forward in a direction, we're just kind of inching along in an unusual way. So move out of our way, we're pushing sideways, keep sidewalk under your feet. Just basically keep moving forward, it sounds like. Tyler has said that the song is named after Mulberry Street in New York City, which is part of Little Italy, which is basically a lot of people who emigrated from Italy to New York City, kind of all settled in this one region, and there's a bunch of really great pizza restaurants and Italian food and a lot of other aspects of Italian culture there. And Tyler says, my manager at the time, we had some meetings with a record label and stuff, and it was just a classic kid going to the big city moment. So that moment kind of inspires this, and you wonder if maybe he's this kid who's his first time really seriously out of Ohio for music, and he's going to the big city and he sees everybody kind of living their life and he's, working through stuff or whatever, and maybe he's telling them, have your fancy life, your big city life, your fancy Italian New York City pizza. I'm just figuring things out and I'm moving sideways on the sidewalk, which is definitely a thing you don't do in New York City. And maybe that's part of it. Personally, I think that the musical style was maybe even more influenced by that experience, just this sort of big adventure, kid in New York City for the first time, exploring the big city, stuff like that. I think that the music might even have that stronger influence on it than the lyrics themselves, but let's continue on with the lyrics. Ain't no sunny skies till you finally realize that everybody relies on synthetic highs. Okay, that is, everybody is relying on them. So is he saying that he and his crew don't? Because then why the everybody? They find someone to prescribe. All right, so are we talking about meds in particular, or are we talking about drugs, or are we talking about just the things we use to distract us from the deeper questions, from the, is he talking about car radios distracting us from thinking deeper? Keep your bliss, there's nothing wrong with this. And maybe he's saying, I want to embrace those thoughts and those feelings rather than just sort of live in this mindless happiness that doesn't mean anything. We just want to feel it all, keep your pills, save your breath, and don't ever forget, which is interesting to say feel it all rather than to say, think about it all, because that would have been a much more car radio thing. And, you know, feeling and thinking sometimes are used interchangeably, but it is interesting that he chooses one over the other here. He continues on into the bridge, and he says, when times aren't the best and I'm on the edge, I'll listen for a song in the distance. Mulberry Street, so good to see you, and don't ever forget. And we hear from Nusha, who says, this is going to help you throughout social situations and make you feel better when you feel out of place. On the bridge of the song, you get to hear people talking, and Tyler goes to music, his outlet to feel better, where he says, when times aren't the best and I'm on the edge, I'll listen for a song in the distance. So that's like his guns for hands, right? Like, it's still repeating concepts from earlier 21 Pilots songs. I think the biggest thing, like, this whole thing would be so easy to explain. Basically what we've just said, the biggest question is just the keep your pills. Like, is he literally specifically talking about drugs or any kind of synthetic man-made high? And is a high like, you know, just bliss and like super happiness and like the ecstasy that you might experience from just numbing yourself and going all out with some sort of crazy thing? Or is bliss just kind of like just being moderately happy? And MDog094 kind of encapsulates the original idea here. This song is about the difference between a lot of people who are able to find happiness in synthetic highs and people like Tyler who struggle to turn their minds off. Remember in Scream the line, while you're doing fine, there's some people and I who have a really tough time getting through this life. This song is kind of about that idea, and I can definitely see that. I think that probably at the basic heart of the song, that to me seems like what it's about. But there is another prevalent idea, the idea of it being Psy propaganda. And a lot of people talk a big game about the Psy propaganda, but it's so hard to me to imagine somebody creating an entire album that says the opposite of what you actually think as some sort of like performance art piece or something, because Tyler has said, and he and Josh have said, like, literally, we want people to enjoy the songs without having to be too deep in the lore, but like if you want to go extra, we have the lore for you to like check things out. And so to create a song where people have to know that this song is a fake song to be able to understand it and to get something out of it doesn't feel like what they're about. Like, instinctually, I think that 21 Pilots would be very unlikely to create some kind of a fake song. Now, is it possible? It absolutely is, but I don't know. Athanasios Papadopoulos says, I think other than No Chances, this is the most overtly propagandist track on the record. Keep your pills, save your breath, and don't ever forget. I interpret this as the bishops encouraging the citizens of Dina to continue their addiction on the synthetic high that is referenced in this song. And so, like, I don't know, I feel like it kind of breaks down, because why would the bishops be telling you to keep your sunny day and leave us in the rain? Like, the bishops don't want to be in the rain either. And why would they be making that distinction? I think the bishops would be saying like, hey, come hang out with us. It's so much better over here. Or, yeah, wait for us. We're gonna come join you in your synthetic highs that we gave you and you didn't know. So at the end of the day, I think what I conclude on this song, after having just talked it out with you guys, thank you for your help with that. Thanks for listening. I think that it's basically referencing ideas from Scream, from Car Radio, from Guns for Hands, and I think it is about trying to stay healthy and kind of accepting where you are, but still continuing to move forward, but feeling the feelings, learning how to deal with them, learning how to cope with them, whether that's through music or whatever that looks like for you, and trying to figure life out instead of just completely numbing everything. I think that meaning is really, really awesome. I think there's a lot of good to that. The only thing that raises a big question mark for me still is just this use of keep your pills. And it feels like such a confusing line. Like, maybe I'm totally missing something, but it just feels like Tyler would know that a lot of his audience, because he's very big on focusing on depression and anxiety and mental health, right? He would know that a lot of his audience uses pills, and so you would think that the use of the word pills here would be overtly confusing and send like a mixed message. My benefit of the doubt best guess here is just that he's talking about, like, he's just using that as like a metaphor for, he's using like drug pills as a metaphor, like really hardcore drugs, and that he's not saying don't go off your meds. He's saying don't completely distract yourself from some of the things that you think about. Sometimes you need to turn the car radio off and think about those instead of, you know, I don't know, doing heroin. And of course, heroin, I don't think is a drug that you take via pill. So take that with a grain of salt. Take my drug knowledge with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, I think Mulberry Street is about moving forward, not trying to, you know, finding positive, healthy ways of coping with how rough your life is and that struggle that you have with your mind with those suicidal crazed lions, right? And yeah, for that reason, honestly, I'm much more excited about Mulberry Street than I was when I first heard it and kind of like bristled at some of those lines. And it's a pretty fun song. So anyway, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I'd love to know what you think, what your thoughts are about my thoughts. And if you're looking for a podcast about obsessions and hobbies and crazy things that people like, I've got a new episode coming out tomorrow about the Pokemon trading card game that is just crazy. I met the world's biggest Pokemon trading card collector and the North American 2019 champion and all sorts of crazy stuff. It was this adventure all across the country. So hope that you enjoy this video and I'll talk to you guys soon.